Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Vimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Vimate Bhakti Vedanta Amen. Gauravani Shesha Punyavadi Atita Saraswati Devi Gauravani Shesha Sunyavadi Astachari Jaya Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Janananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Nandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Nandana Brajajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Gopi Jana Ballava Giri Bharadhari 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 Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Go Premanandi Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Harinama Sankirtan Ki Brihat Madanga Ki Go Premanandi, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vashtaya Bhutale Krimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivasesha Sunyavari Paschachadesha Tarine Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Om Ajnanaatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Tapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Shvapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Upam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Vishnu Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Anvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Banda Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha Jagatitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome this evening. We're on the eve of a very special occasion here in France. Perhaps in the country we're in, wherever it may be, on New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia, India, Russia, Europe, somewhere in Europe, America, wherever you are, Philippines. This evening in France is the eve of tomorrow, is the first day of the Purusottama Mass, the holy month of Purusottama, which is supposed to be the most auspicious month of all, even more auspicious than Kartik, as Lord Hari accepted this month, which previously was considered to be very, very inauspicious. It was called Malamas and condemned by all the other months on the calendar. Sounds strange. We don't usually think of months as being sensitive or sentient beings, but everything has a personality behind it. This is one of the beauties of Krishna consciousness. Everything that exists is some personality behind it. It's not just totally meaningless, lifeless. It has some life source. So the months also, they have their original sources personified. And this Malamas was condemned by all the months and was very bitterly sad. But eventually, Lord Hari accepted this month as his own consort. So she became very auspicious and became known as this month now, which tomorrow, beginning tomorrow, the month of, what is it? What is the name of the month? Anyway, I said it just now. I forgot. My memory is gone. I've forgotten the name. Purusottama, the month of Purusottama, very auspicious month. And it's also tomorrow a very, very auspicious occasion because tomorrow is the first day of the World Holy Name Festival. We'll talk a little more about that later on. Tomorrow is also the appearance day of his Srila Bhakti Caru Maharaj. It's his birth anniversary tomorrow, although we know that he passed away a month or two ago. But tomorrow is his birth anniversary. And tomorrow is also the day on our Western calendar, which marks the appearance of the time when Srila Prabhupada appeared in the Western world, when he first arrived in Boston, Massachusetts. So tomorrow's, I don't know, by Krishna's special arrangement, there's some conjunction of special events tomorrow relevant to all of us on the same day. And especially tomorrow is a great time to think about it, but to become more, to try to develop more Vaishnava qualities, to engage more in devotional activities during this next month. Particularly, it's said that one benefits thousands of times. I can't remember the exact figure. For those who observe this vrata, Purusottama vrata, this is not very complicated. Vrata is not like something very difficult to do. Simply try to increase one's hearing and chanting primarily. That's the primary activity to do during this month, increase one's hearing and chanting about Krishna. The objective goal, you could say, of our devotional practice is to increase our involvement and ultimately our taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna. The taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna comes by actually doing it. It doesn't come first. First, we have to make that effort, a little sacrifice to hear and chant about Krishna, to chant the holy names. And by making that effort, chanting the holy names more, reading Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam more, especially during this month, will help us to develop a genuine, deep taste for the subject matter of Krishna Katha. So that's tomorrow, first day of the Purusottama Mass. And the Prabhupada's arrival in Boston, well, it's an event you probably are familiar with. The amazingly historic, transcendently historic occasion of Prabhupada setting foot on American soil for the first time. Tomorrow, anniversary, 55 years ago, Prabhupada arrived in Boston. And of course, the day after, which will be the day after tomorrow, Srila Prabhupada compiled the famous poem, Makine Bhagavat Dharma, preaching Krishna consciousness in America, what it means, which was Prabhupada's desire to preach in English. His spiritual master gave him that directive to preach the message of Lord Caitanya all over the world in the English language. So Prabhupada made that his life and soul. After, excuse me, now what I want to do, the sun seems to be, always see it's reflecting off the window. I'm just going to close the window. There we go. Blinded there. That's better. So Prabhupada, he took this instruction of his spiritual master as his life and soul and spread this message of the holy name all over the world. And tomorrow also the appearance day of His Holiness Bhakti Caru Maharaj. But as it is the first day of the World Holy Name Week, we'll continue with our discussion on the Siksastakam prayers, and we were halfway through the first verse on our last session. So we will continue with the first verse of the Siksastakam. And give me a few seconds here, please, if you don't mind. I'm not sure. I need to get onto my desktop. How do I do that? I want to go to desktop. Oh, maybe here I can do it. Just give me a second. Close my screen. I have to share. You have to allow me to share, Rasika. I'm sorry, I was kind of caught up with other things and I forgot to get myself fully ready tonight.
Yeah, just go back to Zoom.
Put this into slideshow. There you go, play from current slide. Back to Zoom.
Yeah.
Whoops. There we go. And so hopefully we'll be able to do this in a few seconds. And as you know, a few nights ago, we showed some slides of Srila Prabhupada and ecstatic slides of chanting the holy names, Lord Caitanya and his associates chanting the holy names. We won't show those again, but I'll start off by just mentioning that it is the World Holy Name Festival from the 17th to the 23rd of September. Let's make the world fortunate. These are words of Prabhupada. And by spreading the Sankirtan movement, we can make the whole world fortunate. Fortunate in the spiritual sense of the term. Fortunate in the sense that people can be freed from their pursuit to become freed of suffering. Unfortunately, their pursuit to try to get freed of suffering, this world causes more suffering than the suffering they're trying to get freed from. The real auspicious or fortunate thing that we can, as Rupa Goswami explained, nectar devotion, just Krishna consciousness, spreading of Krishna consciousness is all auspicious. Srimati Radharani, in fact, in the Gopi Gita, also recited by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by King Prataparudra and others, this famous verse from the Gopi Gita, Tava katam ritam tapti jivanam kavibiritam kamashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatatam Uvigvinantiye Purita Janaha. There is nothing more auspicious than spreading the Sankirtan movement, spreading the holy name all over the world. Messages about Krishna, spoken by or about Krishna, should be spread all over the world. This is the most auspicious activity, and those who are engaged in this activity are the greatest welfare workers in the world. Rupa Goswami also describes this Sankirtan movement as the greatest welfare activity. It's not just temporarily fulfilling people's needs. It removes the very need to have a material desire or a material need, you would say, or removing the root, the cause, not just maintaining, you could say, the situation of the effect, the effectual problems that people may have, maybe somewhat counterbalanced by various materialistic endeavors for some time. But again, because people are in ignorance, they continue in their material pursuits. This Sankirtan movement removes right down to the root, as Rupa Goswami explains in Upadeshamrita also. Do we have one here? Nectar of Instruction? See if we can find one. Nectar of Instruction. Where he describes there that just as, jaundice, when a person is suffering from jaundice, then everything tastes kind of not very nice, bitter maybe, not a very nice taste. There's a cure for jaundice, of course there are probably a few, but one cure is said to take sugar candy, and that helps to reduce the jaundice condition, strange as it sounds, and it removes the actual condition, not just the effect. Similarly, it's like that, a person who's jaundice cannot taste the sweet nectar of any kind of food. Even a gulab jamun does not taste sweet to someone who has jaundice. Similarly, someone who's covered by ignorance, forgetfulness of Krishna, various kinds of ignorance, ignorance of our identity, ignorance of who we are, ignorance of, why we're in this world, what the causes of suffering are, where we can actually get happiness, ignorance of our eternal nature, ignorance of our relationship with God, ignorance of the process of realizing the Supreme. Varieties of ignorance are covering the living entity. So one who is in ignorance, they cannot obtain a taste from a sweet taste from the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. But they're deeply covered by ignorance. But that ignorance, or that covering of the living entity, can be removed right down to the root, not just on the surface where we get a temporary taste. And then we get a taste for the material world, which is quite often the case. We have a little bit of an attraction for chanting the holy names sometimes. And then again, we fall back into a materialistic consciousness. So to really get that taste, Rupa Goswami says, we should chant the holy name, Kinvadarada, very carefully and constantly. And not just because it says regularly, but it really means constantly. Always chanting the holy names and chanting carefully, not just whimsically. Mostly our chanting goes up and down, I suppose, but quite often it is quite inattentive, not very attentive to the holy name. And the next verse of the Siksastakam, Lord Caitanya says, because of offenses, I have no taste for the holy name. Because of offenses, we tend to be, you could say, disrespectful to the holy name in the sense of not giving attention, because we have an offensive mentality. We're thinking of something else other than Krishna. And in one sense, that's the original, Prabhupada says that's the original sin, to think ourselves separated from Krishna. So the whole idea of chanting, the purpose of these wonderful months like Purusottama, Kartik, Damodar, festivals like Janmashtami and Ekadashi, and this week the World Holy Name Festival, etc., are there special incentives to encourage us to become a little bit more serious, a little bit more absorbed in spiritual life, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes as Madhavatiti Bhakti Janani. And they're just like the mothers. We have the mothers of invention, but this is mothers of devotion for those who observe these festivities. And we observe the festivities quite simply. You don't have to have a big, complicated festivity, all the better, but nonetheless, even a simple one is effective. And we find that even in the case of, I think it was Jagannath Das Babaji or Vamsi Das, I can't remember. Maybe Gorky Shore, but I don't think it was him. But one of the Babajis, one time their servant, their assistant said, tomorrow is Sanatana Goswami's appearance day or something. Said, so then tomorrow we will have a festival. But Babaji Maharaj, we don't have anything to have a festival with, neither money nor ingredients. Festival, he said, just means constant chanting of the holy names. We may not see it quite as purely or so Krishna consciously as that, but actually this is a festival of the holy name. So we have this World Holy Name Festival starting this week, and we recommend all the devotees to take advantage of this also, in the sense that this is another incentive, or not an incentive, but it could be an incentive for all of us to become a little bit more, say, serious about chanting of the holy name of Krishna and spreading it to others. As Srila Prabhupada did when he arrived in Boston. In his poem, he said, I have no devotion, I have no knowledge, I simply have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada had this implicit faith. It's this implicit faith that everything becomes Yasya Devi Prabhakti Tari Vedatakuru Tashite Takata Prakashante Mahatmanaha. With such implicit faith in the name of Krishna, Krishna, and the spiritual master, all the imports of the Vedas are revealed. Everything's revealed, and that will bring us in a second onto where we are actually in the Siksastakam prayers, on that particular section of the Siksastakam, which is all the imports of the Vedas are revealed by having implicit faith in the holy name. This chanting alone is sufficient to fulfill all needs. We may say, materially speaking, oh, wait a minute, I've got to eat, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Well, okay, we can say that materially, but ultimately, what are our real needs? And if one has implicit faith, Krishna will provide whatever we need, even from a material perspective. We have a nice example of Srivas Thakur, the great associate of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He was senior in age, and he was of so much faith in the holy name of Lord Caitanya. He was a grihasta with many children, but he made no effort to earn his living. He was absorbed, and Lord Caitanya was having kirtan every night in his house all night long. He was absorbed in kirtan, chanting the holy name of Krishna. And Lord Caitanya said to Srivas, you have a big family, huh? How do you maintain your family? He went, what does that mean? Lord Caitanya said, what does that mean? You don't work. How do you maintain your family? I don't see you going out begging or anything. How do you maintain it? What does that mean? Srivas Thakur then replied, my Lord, if someone other Krishna doesn't provide, then I will throw myself into the Ganga. I have no worry. No problem. Krishna provides, as he says in the Bhagavad Gita, he preserves what we have and provides what we lack. Nanyas chintiyantama yejana paripasati. Krishna provides what we lack and preserves what we have. So devotees we can't imitate these pure devotees, and we no doubt we have to perform various activities to maintain our body and soul together and maintain our families, etc. But not more than necessary. We should, as much as possible, utilize our time for hearing, chanting, serving the mission of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the Sankirtan movement. And particularly Prabhupada has given us a very wonderful technique, a wonderful means by which we can spread this message to us. And Lord Caitanya or Krishna, Radha Krishna will provide. What they provide is what we need. We may not think like that. We may think we could do with more, but we may not be quite ready for that. Krishna knows what we're ready for, and he reciprocates accordingly. So let's try to make a little more effort now. Surrender a little bit more. Try to be more attentive when we're chanting japa now, especially so many wonderful things all happening at once. Golden opportunity. It's like sometimes, when you do something, you get extra bonuses. If you buy something at a certain time, you get a special price. Or extra, profit or something or another, double merit, something. So like that, these particular times are special times the Lord arranges for people to get so much more fortune than usual. And so let's take that opportunity and share it with others also. So World Holy Name Week, what can we do during the World Holy Name? We're requesting everyone to please chant, chant, chant. This is from Srila Prabhupada. Our mission is to make unfortunate people fortunate. There we go, Prabhupada is saying it. And we've all come from an unfortunate platform. Maybe sometimes we still feel unfortunate because we have no taste for the holy name. We may not even chant sometimes. We're so unfortunate or lazy or something or another. But we should try to understand that this is opportunity for us all to become fortunate by chanting the holy. Even once chanting is fortunate. Even once, if a person chants, is the most fortunate person in one sense. But we don't want to stay at that level. One wants to come to the level of Shuddha Bhakti or pure devotional service. And the nature of a Shuddha Bhakti is satatam kirtiyanto mam yayana paripasate. That are always engaged in glorifying the holy name of Krishna. You can't stop. Prabhupada described that one who's mad. The guru is one who's mad for Krishna. And one's always there chanting Krishna's holy names. You can't stop. Maddened with love for Krishna or devotion to Krishna. So this opportunity is there. We can do other things too. We can focus, on our japa, try to chant more and try to chant more attentively, avoiding other things while we chant japa. Sometimes we do a few other things while we chant japa. Sometimes we go on our mobiles, or we're watching something on the television or on the computer or something. Sometimes we're reading something. Sometimes we're doing some other services. Okay, not so okay, but let's try to make our most attention on japa. Let's try to focus our attention more on chanting and hearing the holy names. More. The more the merrier. And we can also, kirtan, of course, is Yuga Dharma. The Yuga Dharma is actually kirtan. Actually, our japa is also kirtan because it's oral. It does make a sound. Kirtan means where the holy name is chanted audibly. Sankirtan means in a group. So we do even our japa in one sense is kirtan. Now that we call it japa. So trying to be more attentive in japa, more chanting, more hearing. It could be also Bhagavatam, that's also kirtan. But especially the holy name, since it's World Holy Name Week. And we can take that holy name out into public if you can. I mean, some places may have some restrictions. You have to judge accordingly. But in principle, to take the holy name out into public in one way or another is a great way of glory, both in Purusottama Mass, gaining the tremendous mercy of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu during this month, and also during this week, to take the holy name out and spread the holy name to others as much as we can. In some countries you can't openly go out, and some you can. Depends. You have to judge it accordingly. But there's other ways of spreading it. Now many devotees who are very expert ingenious ideas of spreading Krishna consciousness on the internet through various methods. I don't know, so many YouTube things and whatever else you have nowadays available at our disposal. We're on Zoom right now, and there are, I'm sure, many, many other varieties of ways of spreading the holy name of Krishna online, through social media. And some devotees are very successful. I mean, extremely successful. They're very empowered by Krishna, very intelligent, maybe very surrendered and empowered by Krishna. I'm not one of those, but there are some very fortunate devotees who are doing this and spreading the Maha Mantra to hundreds and thousands, if not millions of people through social media regularly. It's an amazing phenomena. Other devotees, like in America, where it's been difficult to go on the street to distribute books for obvious reasons. But some temples have distributed more books during this COVID period than they do normally, because they've made a full-on effort to distribute books through online, through social media, various methods like this, telephone or whatever, different means of selling Prabhupada's books in full sets. So That's another wonderful way to spread Sankirtan, or the chanting of the holy names. What else we can do? We can have classes about the holy name. We can form groups of devotees chanting together online. You can do many things, because in many countries you can't have programs in your home right now. Some countries you can, most countries maybe you can. You can have kirtan programs in the home with people in general, or with devotee friends, or whatever it may be. There can be skits or dramas about the glories of the holy name. Many ways that devotees can try to remember the importance of chanting Hare Krishna. And also, not only that, remembering the importance, but inspiring us to also chant more. You know, we need inspiration more than anyone, practically, to chant the holy name of Krishna. So there's different ways that we can do this. And I think many other ways that we could also, some devotees, or especially youngsters, they're writing the Maha Mantra on paper, like, 5,000 mantras or something on pieces of paper. Maybe say, well, maybe that's a waste of paper or something. I don't know, but it's also a nice way to absorb our mind in Krishna. If that's the most valuable. In fact, Prabhupada said the only value of of all the paper in the world is so we can actually produce literatures which help people come closer to Krishna. But unfortunately, most of the literatures of the world are not designed for that purpose. They're designed for quite the opposite, to try to enjoy our senses separately from Krishna. And the real benefit, the real fortune would be if all the printing presses would be engaged in printing for the pleasure of Prabhupada, or the pleasure of Krishna. I remember when I was in Africa, in Kenya, and we were arranging for the printing of the Sri Upanishad in Swahili. I was going to go to print. We were doing a magazine called Rudi kwa Mungu, if any of you know Swahili. Rudi kwa Mungu means back to Godhead. And we just sell it for a penny mojo. I still remember those lines. And this magazine was a nice little magazine in Swahili. And then we had the Upanishad translated and everything ready for print. And I was going to, the man in charge of the printing press that we were using in Nairobi, he was a Scotsman at that time, Scottish man. And he was always swear by this statement, because they had no computers in those days. Everything was manual. So he used to say, well, Mao Zedong, the famous revolutionary in China, communist revolutionary, always preached that the printing press is the most powerful weapon. And Karl Marx, who was, I think, the father of the philosophy of communism, maybe I'm wrong, but I think he said that with 26 iron soldiers, I will conquer the world. He used to tell me things like this, just encouraging us to print more and more books. He was making money on it. So whatever. But he would encourage us like that, This is the most powerful way to spread your message. And Prabhupada had the same initiative, as we know. When he came to the West, he came armed with 200 sets of his first canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, as well as the holy name. And this way he preached Krishna consciousness together. So similar as 26 iron or metal soldiers refer to the 26 letters of the English alphabet, funny enough. In this way we'll conquer the world through this method, as Mao Zedong did, whilst others, Christians and others, were preaching. But Mao Zedong just mass-produced a little manifesto book on communism, the Red Book, and the little Red Book, and basically speaking, turn people's consciousness, change their minds in favor of communism. Powerful weapon of the pen. The pen is mightier than the sword, sometimes they say. So this is one thing. Of course, it's related to World Holy Name Week because it's kirtan. It's spreading kirtan through the transcendental message of the book, in the books. So that's one thing we can do also, to try to distribute more and more books about Krishna consciousness, spreading the kirtan in that way. Because after all, the message within the books is just to convince people to chant Hare Krishna. It's supposed to convince us too to chant the glories of Krishna. Not just something we read and repeat, which is fantastic. But it's also supposed to encourage us, or let's say, awaken within us, not just to encourage, but to awaken within us a spontaneous, natural inclination or desire to chant the holy name of Krishna. So that's this week. Please join us if you can for the World Holy Name Festival in whatever way you can, wherever you are. Our plans in France, we have a little team of devotees in Paris who will be going out most days on book distribution and Harinam, both going on simultaneously. And we're also, I'm in Paris right now, I'm going back to New Mayapur tomorrow, early morning. And we're going to try to arrange every day around the local small villages or local towns, every day, Kirtan, Harinam Sankirtan, with a few little books going out. That's our plan. So we can try to absorb ourselves in Lord Chaitanya's mission. This is what he was doing during the day, going out chanting Hare Krishna. And at night, they would go to Srivastako's house or Chandrasekhar's house. And all night, nocturnal kirtan would go on. But those kirtans were very internal. During the day, they appeared external. Internal in the sense only those devotees who were on the most advanced stage of pure devotional service would be there. During the day, everybody was embraced, you could say, by the Sankirtan. Countless living entities participated in the kirtan during the day. You chant day or night. For those special night pastimes of the Lord, they were like, you could say, Sankirtan. In the Sankirtan Leela, they were like the Rasa Leela. There were Sankirtan Leelas throughout the whole night. Very confidential. But Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement is confidential, but it's been made available to all. So please, tomorrow, I don't know what happened there. Here we go. This is the verse we're reading. Cheto darpanamajanam bhavamahadavagni nivarpanam Shreya Kodava Chandika Vitadanam Vidyavadujivan Anandam Vadivadanam Patibadam Punam Ritashvadanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Oh, Krishna. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart. Can everybody see this, Janananda? Are they all getting it online?
Yeah.
Okay. Cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large. The prime one, the topmost benediction. It seems very simple. People can hardly have, why are these people wasting their time? Why don't they do something useful? Why don't they get a job? Or just be quiet, for goodness sake, you're disturbing me. Don't block the footpath, please. Making this noise, blocking the, and people will see it like that. They don't see anything good about it. Because their hearts are so covered over, so absorbed in materialistic in pursuit, that they don't see this as a benediction at all. Quite the opposite. But actually this is, because as we heard earlier, it cleanses their heart of all these ignorances, of all the dirt and dust accumulated in the heart of countless lifetimes. It spreads the rays of the benediction moon, Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the benediction moon, and those rays of prema which are emanating from him. Yes, he's the source of prema, emanating from Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And how does that emanation spread through the Sankirtan movement? It spreads that prema. There's those rays of prema which are emanating from Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Spread everywhere through the performance of Sankirtan. Even if we just sit in our homes and chant Hare Krishna, the benefit goes far and wide. So many people will unknowingly benefit, maybe to a small degree or a lesser degree, but they get nonetheless a drop of that unlimited benefit in the Sankirtan movement. And then he goes, it is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar which we are always anxious, for which we are always anxious. So we'll cover these last few points tonight. We went through this already, and we reached here, this verse here, or this line rather from the verse. Vidya Vadu Jivanam. It is the life and soul of all education. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur quotes a few verses. We'll read those first before we go on to the discussion. This is one verse which he quotes from the Garuda Purana. Yadi chasi param jnanam jnanat yat paramam param tadadarena rajendra kuru govinda kirtanam. It'd be so nice if we could learn a lot of these verses. We could constantly remind ourselves of the wonderful glories of the holy name, and how important it is to spread these glories, or spread the holy name everywhere, and ourselves to become more absorbed in chanting the holy names. O best of kings, if you desire to acquire that extraordinary knowledge by which the supreme goal is realized, then chant Lord Govinda's names with love and devotion. Let me see. In the Srimad Bhagavatam it states, Dataya dasmin bhavaisha jivas tapataye nabina hatana sharma atman labante bhagavan stavangri chayang savidyang ata ashrayim. O Father, O Lord, O Personality of Godhead, the living entities in the material world can never have any happiness because they are overwhelmed by three kinds of miseries. Therefore, they take shelter of the shade of your lotus feet, which are full of knowledge, and we also take shelter of them. That is understood to be taking shelter of the holy name, which is none different than Krishna. Name and named are one and the same, they're absolute. So the name is also the named. It's not the name of Krishna exactly, it is Krishna. So it's all auspicious. This means taking shelter. When we chant the holy name, we're taking shelter of the Lord. And again, the Srimad Bhagavatam is stated, Sa vidyatan matiryaya. Real knowledge is that realization which increases our attachment for the Supreme Lord. And Anandam Bodhi. That's so, okay, let's read a little bit about what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says on this, and then we'll just discuss for a second. The source of all transcendental knowledge is another way of saying it. The source of all transcendental knowledge. The Mundaka Upanishad mentions two types of knowledge, material and transcendental. Chanting the Lord's holy name is indirectly the fountainhead of material knowledge. This is the secret. Chanting the Lord's holy name is the fountainhead. It's the fountainhead of all of material knowledge, what to speak of all transcendental knowledge. But it is primarily the life and soul of transcendental or supra-mundane knowledge. It's the life and soul of all knowledge, because it emanates, and the purpose of all knowledge, Krishna said, Vedescha saviraham eva vedo vedanta krit veda vedeva chaham. The purpose of all knowledge is to know Krishna. It's not just to have knowledge. The result or the actual fruit of knowledge is realization of Krishna. So one who has realized Krishna or their relationship with Krishna is considered to have already studied all the Vedic literatures. It's even said that about one who is chanting the holy names. It's already considered they have studied all the Vedas and all the various corollaries of the Vedas, because they've understood the conclusion, the purpose behind the Vedas, which is to understand Krishna, where all the Vedas might be known, Krishna says. So the purpose of Vedic study or any knowledge come to that. All knowledge is trying to achieve some objective goal, but the ultimate goal is Krishna. So all material knowledge can be used also to help to one to achieve that aim or goal, but mostly people misuse their knowledge and they don't realize what is the value of the knowledge that they have. They use it for their own sense enjoyment, unfortunately. So Krishna consciousness means transformation, not so much of what we do necessarily, but the direction in which we work. Instead of working for our own sense gratification, one works for the pleasure of Krishna. All you active, as Krishna says, be conscious of me, work always under my direction, under my protection. Emphasize this to Arjuna many times. Have you heard me with a conscious? Have you heard me with an attentive mind? Have you heard? If you've not heard me, he says you'll be lost. That's the principle of the 18th chapter of the Gita, to concentrate or focus one's attention on Krishna. Manmano bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskaru. So that realization, real knowledge is that realization which increases, a beautiful translation here from the Bhagavatam, increases our attachment for the Supreme Lord. That's real knowledge. As we see in Bhagavad Gita, it's interesting, in the 13th chapter, I think it's the 13th chapter, where Krishna explains the constituents of the material world, the phenomena which we perceive, the various senses, the sense objects, and so on. 23, 24, 25 various elements or aspects which constitute our understanding of what is this phenomenal world. But then Krishna explains many other things. After that, he talks about humility and self-control, tolerance, and so on and so forth. Total dependence on the Supreme Lord, etc. And then he says, and this I declare as knowledge, and all that is contrary to this is being ignorance. So knowledge is not just phenomenal information. Depending on one's intellectual capacity, will understand or not understand. But real knowledge is the means whereby we can get out of this entanglement in the phenomena. Not just how we so understand it to a certain degree, but rather that knowledge which helps release us from it. There's not really much value understanding all the details of a prison house when you're stuck in the prison. You may occupy your time like that, go do something. But it doesn't release one from the prison. It doesn't really fulfill any real objectives, just some self-satisfaction there, or some feeling of egotistic self-satisfaction, but no release from the material world. That's the knowledge which releases us. So Krishna explains that knowledge which releases us from the entanglement which we're in the material world. And in the next chapter, 14th chapter, Krishna says we have this material world is like that. The leaves are up, the branches are up, and the roots are up, and the branches are down. And it's a very entangling place. People are very confused and entangled in the fruits of their work. Even the Vedas, they get caught up in aspiring for fruitive results, etc. And as Krishna said, we have to cut down with a weapon, the axe of knowledge. We have to cut down this tree, cut it down at the root. It doesn't grow up again. This entangling, let's say, network of karmas which keep us absorbed in varieties of sense gratification to try to fulfill our desires for pleasure in this world. So this is a fine line. Well, the Sankirtan movement is the, as it says, or it said just now in this verse of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, it is the actual, where do we get to? The source of all transcendental knowledge. The source of all transcendental knowledge, and the life and soul of all knowledge. Because without reaching the goal, our knowledge is basically shrama evihi kevalam. It's basically a waste of time. There's no real value in all that we're doing unless we come to this conclusion. Chanting induces the jiva to break the shackles of false ego and false prestige. A product of material knowledge. False prestige is a product of material knowledge and elevates him to understand his eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. The ultimate focus of real transcendental knowledge, therefore, is chanting Krishna's holy name. Ekantino yasya na kanchanartam vanchanti evai bhagavat papanaham adyadbhutam tacharitam sumangalam kayanta ananda samudra magnaham. I think we may have jumped a verse there, I'm not sure. Yeah, we did. Excuse me. Okay, so number 5, or let's say the 5th of the effects of the Sankirtan movement mentioned in the first verse, there's 7 altogether. Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. This is the one we all like to know about. The chanting of the holy name of Krishna expands the blissful ocean of transcendental life. Yes, we want to taste that bliss, looking for the bliss. People, this word has become quite popular nowadays. People didn't use it previous generation, but it's become quite popular now, this word bliss. It used to be something which was applied to maybe some very high religious experience or some experience from some intoxication of some kind. But now people use it much more commonly. But they're looking for that expansion of the bliss in the material world by savoring varieties of material so-called pleasures, but it's never full. It's only a drop. It's like a drop in the ocean they get, and then they go somewhere else, never fully satisfied. Whereas the ocean, this ocean of devotional service, as Bhakti Vinod Thakur explains, expands the boundless ocean of transcendental bliss. It's boundless, yet it's still expanding ever more. It's impossible to conceive within the realm of Maya, because everything with the realm of Maya is contained by time, place, and circumstances. And it's all contained within the realm of, you could say, limitations in one sense, apparent limitations. Whereas in the spiritual world, there's no limit, neither time, nor space, nor circumstance. So how can something be ever expanding? Inconceivable, because from the material perspective, everything has to occupy space. So what space is it occupying? It's inconceivable. And the knowledge is also ever expanding, and the bliss is also ever expanding. So the Satchitananda tendency or characteristics of the soul are ever expanding in the spiritual realm. You could say, even for the jiva, it appears to ever expand. As Krishna, of course, is the penultimate. I mean, he's unlimited in every respect. Even the living entities are experiencing this ever-increasing ocean of transcendental bliss in the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Only a vast expanse of water is called an ocean, nothing less. Therefore, unlimited bliss has been rightly compared to an ocean. It's unlimited. Oceans are not, in this world, not unlimited, but they're huge. To a little conditioned soul, they appear unlimited. They can't fathom the extent of an ocean. It's so vast. Maybe a lake or even a small sea could be measured, but an ocean is so vast to an ordinary person, at least. So what to speak of the ocean of Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, an ocean of transcendental bliss, which is made available through the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. Let's say Krishna has made it available to those who take shelter of him and have faith, as we heard just now, those who have firm faith, implicit faith in the holy name or in Krishna and in the spiritual master. All the imports of the Vedas are revealed to him, even without extra endeavor. Part of our bhakti is to study the scriptures, that's for sure. But even without that, if one actually has implicit faith in the holy name, Krishna will reveal everything to that devotee. Prabhupada tells the story when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Sri Rangam one time in South India, in Tamil Nadu. And when he was touring around India, spreading the holy name, he came to the temple of Ranganath. And there was one Brahmin there who was apparently illiterate, couldn't read, but he was holding the Bhagavad Gita and practically worshipping the Bhagavad Gita. but tears were coming from his eyes. And Lord Chaitanya saw him crying. He said, "Why are you crying?" And he said, "Oh, my spiritual master has given me the instruction to read every day a chapter of Bhagavad Gita, but I cannot read." "Really? Then why you were crying?" He said, "Oh, my Lord, whenever I see or think of Krishna as the chariot driver of Arjuna, his devotee, the Supreme Lord serving his devotee, my Lord, I simply cannot but cry. How merciful, how wonderful, how loving my Lord is." And Lord Chaitanya then embraced that Brahmana and said, "You may not be able to read the words of Bhagavad Gita, but you've understood all of them. You've realized all of the words of Gita. You've understood the real relationship of the living entity with Krishna, which is the ultimate, you could say, at least in terms of personality, is the ultimate effect of understanding Bhagavad Gita, that our relationship with Krishna is solidified and we become absorbed in that relationship and is developed through Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's see, where do we get to? Even spiritual nature and objects take on a tenderness and cooling sheen in touch with the chanting of Krishna's holy name. We experience that even situations within this material world, which sometimes may be troublesome, or they may cause us to become overly affected and lusty and greedy, or whatever it may be. They take on a different nature when we're chanting the holy names. They develop a different, it becomes no longer that kind of, oh no, but rather opportunity now to spiritualize every situation in relationships with others, in relationship with the world around us, our own body and mind. Everything can become transformed in the association of the pure holy name of Krishna. It has this transforming effect of our consciousness when we associate with the holy name of Krishna. The essence is to associate with Krishna as his holy name. And the holy name, Bhaktivinoda Siddhanta Maharaj said, the only reform we need is a reform of our own consciousness, which can be evoked by exposing ourselves to the transcendental sound of the holy name of Krishna. So it expands that great ocean of bliss. So we have no interest in the small canals or little ponds of so-called happiness in this world, because they're insignificant compared to the pleasure of pure devotional service or of chanting the holy name of Krishna. There's no real comparison there. Those little pools of happiness in this world, just like little reservoirs in this world, dry up. They get evaporated in the sun or in the material exposure to the material, where they become evaporated. But the great ocean never, in fact, the great ocean not only doesn't become evaporated, it provides the water also for those small drops, those small pools. So therefore, again, as the Spirit Holy Name is considered to be like a great ocean, unlimited ocean, that great ocean is actually providing the very source of any pleasure or anything whatsoever in the small reservoirs of knowledge or pleasure within this material world. Yavan arta udapane sarvatak samplatodike. Krishna says to Arjuna, that all purposes served by a small pond are automatically served by the great reservoirs. Similarly, one who knows the purpose behind the Vedas is to be understood, to studied or understood all of it. All the purposes of the Vedas are revealed to him. One who knows Krishna or understands the goal of the Vedas. We don't need to make a separate endeavor. One may, for the sake of preaching, but it's not absolutely necessary. Because one has come to the purpose of studying the Vedas to know Krishna. So one who knows Krishna, there's not really any need to study the Vedas. And if by studying the Vedas you don't know Krishna, you're wasting your time. Same thing with austerity, same thing with everything. There's no point if it doesn't lead us to the goal. And if one's reached the goal, there's no point in doing those other things. That's the purpose of doing them. So there's, again, knowledge is the fountainhead of all knowledge, this Sankirtan movement. And then going on, we read the Sanskrit already. Unalloyed devotees who have no desire other than to serve the Lord, worship him in full surrender, and always hear and chant about his activities, which are now most wonderful and auspicious. And we don't maybe feel like that sometimes. We may be a little inattentive, maybe a little bit in a different mood. But when we absorb ourselves in hearing Srila Prabhupada's words from Srimad Bhagavatam or any of his books, incredible effect on our consciousness, tremendous effect. And we realize how wonderful they are just by reading a simple verse, how wonderful it is. Every word is Krishna. We just have our eyes closed, we're looking the other way, but every word is Krishna. And it's so wonderful to associate with Krishna. They are thus always merged in an ocean of transcendental bliss. Such devotees never ask the Lord for any benedictions. That's really wonderful. Don't need anything. We've got everything. Devotee has everything they need. We may not be taking it. Prabhupada said, Krishna's mercy is already there. You just have to take it. It's not, why am I not getting Krishna's mercy? Why am I getting more of Krishna's mercy? No, Prabhupada said, the mercy is everywhere. It's there for all of you. You just have to take it, that's all. You just have to take advantage of it. And we can find out how to take advantage of it by reading Prabhupada's books. That's what that's for. That's what it's for. To help us to progress on our path to love of Godhead. Knowing what is favorable, what is unfavorable, etc. Patibadam, the sixth great good fortune of the Sankirtan movement. Patibadam purnamitam ashvadanam. At every step, and enables one to taste full nectar at every step, not just at one step, every step. One was absorbed in the performance of Sankirtan, every step of one's life. In the Padma Purana it says, I offer my respectful obeisances at the feet of that extraordinary person whose body shivers with sublime joy and erupts with ecstasy at the sound of Krishna's sweet name, and who is expert in redeeming the conditioned soul engrossed in the mire of the ocean of repeated birth and death. This is showing respect to those who are absorbed in Sankirtan, those Kirtankaris, those who are fully engaged in Kirtan, an expert in preaching Krishna consciousness. In other words, offering obeisances to the Uttama Bhagavat. They may be performing or acting as a madhyam to spread Krishna consciousness in this world, but they're actually Uttama, topmost devotees who are absorbed in the sweet mellows of the holy name of Krishna constantly, and their burning desire to share that with all the unfortunate suffering living entities in this world. The blazing fire of the Sankirtan movement extinguishes the blazing fire of material existence. And the final one, Sarva Atma Snapanam, Sarvatma Snapanam, Sarva Atma Snapanam. It gives a cooling effect to everyone. Everyone's in this blazing fire of material existence. This Sankirtan movement cools us down. Sometimes in this world, there's some substances on a hot day. We're in temperature in France has been in the 30s for quite a few days now, over 30, up to 35, maybe even more over the last few days. And the Sankirtan, I mean, maybe materially, there are certain substances which may cool us down a little bit. So on another plane, on a subtle plane, the living entity's heart is blazing with fire of lust to try to enjoy their senses or fulfill their desires. And this can be cooled down by the Sankirtan movement. It gives a cooling effect, just like the moon. Another effect of the moon, we heard about the benediction moon in a previous verse. The moon benediction, cooling rays. The moon has cooling rays. I don't think there's any moon in the sky right now. Cooling rays of the moon. After a hot day, one bathes oneself in the cooling rays of the moon and cools down our gross and subtle bodies. It has a magical effect on us. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam it is stated, when people properly glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or simply hear about his potencies, the Lord personally enters their hearts and cleanses away every trace of misfortune, just as the sun removes the darkness, or as a powerful wind disperses the clouds. So this properly glorified, attentive glorification, offenseless glorification of the Lord, his name or hearing about him attentively. The Lord enters our hearts, and this is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam also. Srinvatam Sukata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtan Jantak Stoya Badrani Vidunoti Saritsatam. Those devotees who are absorbed in chanting his names, the Lord cleanses all the dirty things from their heart, completely purifies their heart, sitting in their heart. The Lord says the same thing in the Bhagavad Gita. Basically, he removes that ignorance from their hearts. Krishna is the purifier. Paritram, he purifies the consciousness of the living entity. Who takes shelter of him, particularly his sound of his holy name, and Krishna present, cleanses the heart. Sun removes the darkness. And from the Namashtakam. Namashtakam are prayers by Rupa Goswami on the glories of the holy name. Narada Vino Jivana Sadorni Niryasa Madhuri Pura Tam Krishna Nama Kamang Spuran Me Vasane Vasana Sudam. O holy name of Krishna, you are the life-sustaining elixir of Narada Muni, of Sri Narada Muni's Vina, the exhilarating waves on the ocean of nectar. Therefore I beg you to remain eternally dancing ecstatically on my tongue. Everybody wants the Lord dances on their tongue constantly. Rupa Goswami said, what is the use of 2 ears or 1 mouth? If only I had millions of ears and millions of mouths, maybe I could hear the holy name chanted. The devotee always wants to hear more and more and more that sound of Krishna, always dancing, dancing, dancing on his tongue, never stopping. Like a lila, dancing on it, like Krishna danced on Kaliya's heads and destroyed all of his anarthas. Krishna also dancing on the tongue will destroy all of our bad propensities by his presence there. Cleanses our false ego too. And again in Namastakam. Jaya Namadeya Muni Vindageya Vanjanaya Paramaksharakvite Tam Manadaradati Managudivitang Nikologata Papatilim Vilumbasi. All glory is unto you, O holy name. The sages have always sung hymns praising you, and you have now appeared in transcendental form of the supreme syllables for the pleasure of all humanity. Yes, Krishna's appeared in this way. Kali Kalera Namarupa, Krishna avatar in the age of Kali. Krishna appears Namarup in the form of the name. That's his form, Namarupa, Kali Kalera. In this age of Kali, Namarupa, Krishna avatar. The avatar of Krishna in this age, Lord Caitanya is also there, but especially the Lord has appeared in this Namarup, form of the name. If one chants those syllables of the holy name, even indifferently, indirectly, jokingly, deceptively, or slightly, you destroy his most dreaded sinful reactions. That means Krishna destroys those sinful reactions, thereby extinguishing all of his sufferings. Therefore, you are always victorious. So even for those who are not really engaged in devotional service, somehow they chant, they get cleansed of the reactions of their sinful activities, like a Jamil. When he was leaving his body, the Yamadutas were taking away. Vishnu Dutas came, intervened because he chanted Narayan in desperation at the end of his life without offense, actually. So the Vishnu Dutas appeared on the scene to prevent them from taking him away. And a long debate in the 6th canto Bhagavatam takes place, the discussion about the principles of religion, who's punishable and who's not. And the Vishnu Dutas, of course, refused to allow the Yamadutas to take it, even though he was a very sinful man. But because he chanted Narayan at the time of death, they wouldn't let him take him away. Then Maharaj explained to the Yamadutas that those who are chanting the names of Krishna are freed of all reactions. You cannot go to such people who are chanting the names of Vishnu or Krishna. Of course, that wasn't the end for Ajamil. Just getting free from sinful reactions, maybe one step. Tesham, what's that verse in the Bhagavad? Yesham Gatam, Yesham. Where it goes, I can't remember it, but There's one verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna explains that those who have acted piously in this life, as well as in the previous lives, and are freed of the duality of delusion, such personalities can engage in devotional service with determination. So some apparent eligibility is at least we have to have some clearing of the heart to fully engage in devotional service. We can engage any stage, but we have to let go all the various anchors in this material world to genuinely absorb ourselves in the Sankirtan movement of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And so Prabhupada has given us this opportunity to engage in this most auspicious activity, even though we may not have so many good qualities. Prabhupada has given us those opportunities. He said, I've given you your good fortune. Just take it. Yesham Tvantagatam Papam Janana Punya Karma. And the Chaitanya Bhagavat, nice verse. Maybe we'll be finishing around about this time with a few quotes from Bhakti Vinod. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhu kahe kahilane Maha Mantra, Iha Japa Giya Sabe Kariya Nibandha. Ihaive sarva siddhi ihaive sabhara sarvakshana balaite vidina hihara. Lord Chaitanya said, I am giving you the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Go and chant with sincere enthusiasm. By chanting this mantra, you receive all the perfections of life. So continue to chant incessantly, for there are no rules or regulations for chanting the Maha Mantra. No rules or regulations. That's a pretty good line, isn't it? A lot of devotees misinterpret that to some extent. And, that means I can do anything I like and whatever. It's not quite like that. Prabhupada explains what this means is that there's no time, place, and circumstances which can restrict the chanting of the holy names. Now, of course, one may have to adjust according to one's material position in certain circumstances. You may not be able to audibly chant. You may have to concentrate on other things. But primarily, there's no time. Any time we can chant, in principle. Any place, in principle. Any circumstance. Practice. We're practicing to leave our body. So at the time of death, that's not like the only thing we're thinking about, no doubt, but this is one of the aspects, is so that when we leave this body, and that can happen at any moment. In fact, we're basically leaving our body at every moment. So we should practice at every moment to chant the holy name of Krishna and remember Krishna at every moment. What's that verse? Smartavya satatam Vishnu Vishmatavya Najata Chitam. This is the purpose of the Vedic literature, to always remember Krishna and never forget him. And the nicest way, easiest way in Kali Yuga, particularly of remembering Krishna, is to chant his holy names. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. The congregational chanting of the holy name. All glories to the holy name of Krishna. The holy name of Sri Krishna is ever victorious. All glories to the congregational chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Not only is it congregation, it's transcendental. Let there be victory to the transcendental, congregational chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Sri Krishna Ki Jai. I'll leave the rest till next time. Kind of like any could apply to any verse, next few verses quoted. And I'll just read a few quotes from Bhakti Vinod Thakur, summarizing a little of what we said. The subtle and gross contaminations attendant upon the material conception of life have quite devoured the spiritual soul. In other words, we've become covered over completely by gross and subtle contaminations. But these material diseases can at once be terminated by the chanting of the holy name. This is the sun can dissipate the fog in the morning, can cleanse a dirty place, powerful, dry up reservoirs of water. Similarly, if we chant the holy name of Krishna, there's non-different nama, Chintamani Krishna, Caitanya, Rasa, Vigraha. The name is Krishna himself, Binatman Namano. The Lord is the name, and the named are one and the same. And if we take shelter of the name, we're also taking shelter of Krishna in full. He's not an expansion of Krishna, it is Krishna himself. He's present in this form of Namarupa. Yes. When the soul is released from the material designations, is eager to reach Lord Krishna. He engages in devotional service under the cooling shade of Lord Krishna's lotus feet. Take shelter of the lotus feet, cooling shade of those lotus feet. It cools us from all the burning pangs of material existence and can give shelter to unlimited ocean, which can give residence to unlimited living entities. It's not like, oh, there's too many fish in the ocean, now we'll have to start eating each other. Not like that. Unlimited, there's space for everyone. And Jiva Swami then describes in the Bhakti Sandarbha that this means, this verse which is quoted, this means that although it is required in Kali Yuga to practice the 8 limbs of devotional service, they have to be performed in conjunction with chanting. And we mentioned that the other day, how we heard the other day how all the other 8 limbs may be there, but the most important limb is chanting the holy name of Krishna. And if we are performing the other 8 limbs, Prabhupada here, exactly as Puja Goswami was quoting, that they must be performed in conjunction with the chanting of the holy name. The most important of all the limbs of Bhakti Yoga is chanting the holy name of Krishna. So let us try to chant as much as we can the holy name of Krishna with our heart and soul. And I'm just going to go back now. How do I do that? One day I'll remember how to do this. I stop here. And I don't know if we're there. Are we there or not? Are you there? Am I there? Am I there or not? Can you see me or not? Okay. So, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare, Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you very much. And please don't forget tomorrow's wonderful events. Take advantage of them. This is some of the decorations in the room which I'm in. Just noticed it here. There's a nice drying rack behind me over there. It's not, I'm in the drying room right now. The sun's gone down. Here we go. And there, for some of you know, in the background, there is Janananda and Prabhu in the background. Haribol. Ramasikhananda knows him. Gokularani knows him. A few others know him. Our Sankirtan, one of our wonderful Sankirtan devotees here with our traveling Sankirtan party right now. And there's Jivananda around behind me there. Hare Krishna. So we'll take some questions now if you wish. And I've just gone on to the questions here. There's one question, just some notes from devotees there, just thanking us. Okay, this is a question. Since it's quite late here, I will have to leave. Oh, okay, it's not a question. Just seeking blessings. Yes, it's very late in some countries, or very early, whichever way you look at it. But in India now, it's very late. It must be about, what is it there, 11 o'clock or something? I don't know. But it's very late. And in Malaysia, it's even later. Philippines also. And in Australia, they're 8 hours. So what time is it over there? Also early morning, very early in the morning. And in New Zealand, it's not so early, it's maybe 5 or 6 o'clock. So thank those devotees for staying up all night or getting up early, whichever it may be. And the devotees in Europe, it's pretty much the same time, except for 1 or 2 countries are an hour behind us. So it's not too problematic there. And in America, if you're not working, or if you're having some space in your work, it's good timing. Thank you for joining us this evening. Let's see what's next then. Okay, Hare Krishna. Sometimes if I get an opportunity to lead kirtan, I feel some sort of pride. What should I do about this? Yeah, pray. The system is to pray. All of the kirtaniyas in ISKCON, famous ones, that is Badahari Prabhu, Sachinanda Maharaj, Madhava Prabhu, Agni Day Prabhu, and probably all the others too. I've asked most of them, those ones I've asked, what their mood, how they don't, this tendency could be there for anyone, even great souls like Lord Brahma, Priyavata. They also were afraid of this happening in the course of their service. And they prayed. They prayed to the Lord, please protect me that I not become overwhelmed by pride in the course of my service. So we take shelter before we start any service. It could be any service we get proud of doing. Not only kirtan, maybe sometimes. So what's the secret? Well, Lord Caitanya also gave the secret. Okay, prayer. When he delivered the leper, Vasudeva Vipra, from leprosy, and he was converted by the mercy of Lord Caitanya into a very handsome Brahmana. And he was very afraid that people would get to learn about this and people would glorify him. He was very, very afraid of this. And Lord Caitanya said, don't worry, my instruction to you is if you constantly chant the holy name, you'll be protected from this. So it's not a question, therefore I won't lead, or therefore I won't chant. The question of chanting, and more chanting. And being open. Krishna, if you're sincere, Krishna will help you. Somebody will come along, say something you would not normally like to hear or something. Put us in our place, chastise us, criticize us, something or another, and maybe it's a bit hard there, like a punch below the belt or something, but it actually can help us to free us if we don't react in similarly in an aggressive way. So it can help release us when we start to think, Lord, maybe they're right, maybe I am proud, maybe I am, whatever it is, self-centered or something, greedy, whatever it is. And we thank the Lord. And Prabhupada writes in the teachings of Queen Kunti, when somebody gets on our case, the devotee sees it as Krishna's mercy coming through that person to point out my faults. So this is a question of our willingness to hear Krishna. So when you're chanting in kirtan, the main secret from the practical point of view is to try to hear the sound, not to think about all the other things, what the people thinking of me, how nicely I'm singing today, what tune shall I sing next, which will attract the attention of the public. Now I'm playing so nicely on the harmonium, or whatever it is, everyone's joining in, all good, but we should just try to hear the sound of the holy name of Krishna. Where is the room for pride? When we put Krishna, pride means we're putting ourselves in the center. Krishna consciousness means we're putting Krishna in the center. So we try to put Krishna in the center by hearing him when we chant in kirtan. Where are we now? I think we read it already. Yes, it looks like that's where we are. If there are any other questions, you're welcome. But there's a hand going up behind me. Yes, it's Revatinandam Prabhu. You speak, I'll repeat your questions. They may not be able to hear it.
We often heard that one name of Vishnu is three names of Ram, and one name of Ram is one name.
1,000
of Vishnu is one name of Ram.
1,000 names of Vishnu is one name of Ram, and
one name of Ram is three names of Krishna.
No, 3 names of Ram, one name of Krishna.
Sorry.
No problem. I think everyone caught that. 1,000 names of Vishnu is 3 names of Ram, 1 name of Ram rather, and 3 names of Ram is 1 name of Krishna.
I was wondering if in this spiritual world, there were more devotees of Krishna than anything else. Because it's supposed to be most attractive, so it should be Goloka Vrindavan more populated than anything else, no?
A nice thought, huh? A nice thought. I've never heard any statistics. I don't know if they have population statistics up there or not. I'm not sure. But yeah, these are very transcendental subject matters, isn't it? Very transcendental. It's yes, but see, the name of Krishna is very confidential in that sense. It's known in all the Vedas, no doubt, as a Vedic mantra, but to really enter into that spirit which leads to Goloka Vrindavan is very, very rare for the conditioned soul. Very rare. And we see even in our daily experience, the majority of people who are religious are more into the mood of reverential worship. They're more into the mood of God is the Almighty, the Supreme Being. It's a very rare thing to be able to taste this. It's like in this world, Prabhupada gives example. Diamonds are probably more valuable than glass or plastic. But the majority of people, because of their eligibility, are not able to acquire diamonds. They acquire plastic imitations or glass or something, or some imitation metals of some kind. They haven't got the eligibility. So it's very rare for a conditioned soul to get this opportunity to experience the innermost, the topmost, let's say, realm of rasa or relationship. Generally, the relationship of the living entity with the Lord is founded upon service and neutrality. To rise to the platform or to enter into that plane of intimacy, of friendship, love, parenthood, or conjugal love is indeed very rare for a conditioned soul. Very rare. In general, it's not available, even in a whole day of Lord Brahman, although of course there are exceptions in that sense. But generally speaking, the day of Lord Brahma, only Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu is making this available. In other ages, even in other Kali Yugas, the Yuga Dharma was not Nam Sankirtan as we know it. It was Sankirtan, Nam Sankirtan also, but it was reverential names of Godhead, not the Prema Sankirtan, which Lord Chaitanya has introduced. Golokara Prema Dana Harinama Sankirtan. He's brought this Maha Mantra directly from Goloka Vrindavan and giving everyone at this point of time the opportunity, very special opportunity to attain to that topmost plane of loving relationship. Everyone at every stage of loving relationship with the Lord feels completely satisfied in their situation, oblivious, unaware of just like in this world we can't experience the happiness of another person exactly. Neither they experience our happiness. What to speak of another species of life? It looks awful to us. Maybe they're enjoying in one sense more than we are. To us, it looks awful. We don't know. They're not thinking, generally speaking, I want to become a human being. They're satisfied in that situation. Of course, it's limited, it's mixed with duality and misery, etc. But in principle, they're satisfied in that situation. And the spiritual world is like that. So we can't say, as far as the eternal parishads of the Lord, the eternal associates of Lord, they're unlimited Vaikuntha planets. Every plane is unlimited. It's impossible to measure any one of these planes, whether it's Vaikuntha, whether it's Brahman, whether it's Ayodhya, whether it's Dwarka, whether it's Goloka Vrindavan, whatever plane it is impossible to measure. And the number of living entities there where we have our Jiva Tattva, which are unlimited, there's no way of telling. They're eternal, but they're ever increasing. It's inconceivable, materially speaking. And then we have Shakti Tattvas, which are simply expansions of Krishna's own, or his own expansions, basically. Lord Balaram, Radharani, they expand in unlimited ways to fulfill unlimited desires of the Lord. So they can expand unlimitedly also, as the Lord so desires. I mean, we read inconceivable figures when you look into it. I mean, how even in Gokul Vrindavan, how many calves the coward boys have? It's unending. I mean, there's blades of grass. Everything is conscious. Everything. The water, the air, everything is conscious. Inconceivable. Absolutely immeasurable and inconceivable, unlimited, unending, unlimited. It's a plane of consciousness which can't be measured so much in numbers and time, place, and circumstance. Unlimited. The coward boys that I read, I worked, I calculated on some of the coward boys, and they got all these Sanskrit terms. You find out what the Sanskrit terms mean. I've got like 10 billion cows each. And there are 1,000 billion coward boys or something. And they got like 10 billion cows each. And that's quite a lot of calves. I don't know if Lord Brahma stole them all. But that's a lot. That's a very big cave. But it means inconceivable. You can't measure it. Inconceivable. But love cannot be measured in terms of numbers, space. And every expansion is there to increase the pleasure of the Lord. Whether there, jivas exist for the pleasure of the Lord, unlimited jivas, the pleasure of the Lord, and his various, let's say, variety of experiences which the Lord has. And the Krishna reciprocates them with the jivas. One time Prabhupada said that the jivas uniquely have a minute characteristic of the Supreme Lord. They have their own little tiny free will. And they have we do, natural inclination to serve the Lord in a certain way. So the Lord expands himself in such a way to fulfill the minute desires of the living entities, both in this world and in the spiritual world. So it's a reciprocation of the Lord, unlimited, whatever it is. We have to ask if they can do a statistics. What they call it, they go around counting all the heads. But the problem with that one is they're ever expanding. So even if you did count them all, one time, sometimes people say is, one man asked Prabhupada, can Krishna create a mountain? Can Krishna create a mountain which he cannot lift? Trick question, you could say. Can he create a mountain which he cannot lift? Because if he can, he's, it's like Krishna should be able to do anything. So can he create a mountain which he cannot lift? And Prabhupada said, yes. And then he'll lift it. In other words, Krishna's opulences are ever expanding beyond what they are right now. It's inconceivable to a material measure. He creates a mountain bigger than everything that exists, and then he himself expands and lifts it. Or his power expands. Knowledge is the same thing. Is Krishna's knowledge of himself is ever increasing too. As the objects of his knowledge increase, and then the objects is ever increasing. So you can't even measure, even if you tried. Even if we tried. We do know, of course, that these spiritual plants, it is said that the Vaikuntha plants are 3/4 of the Lord's expansive energy, whereas the material world is 1/4. But that's the energy. Whereas Gogoloka Vrindavan is greater than all the Vaikunthas. So if you look at it like that, then one would understand that Goloka Vrindavan is much greater than all the Vaikunthas together. But they're all unlimited. How do you measure that one? It's just, what can you say? It's the inconceivable potencies of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Sometimes if I get an opportunity, we read that already. Okay, that looks like it. It's been great to be with you all again, and we hope to see you at the weekend. We'll see you on the street. I don't know where you're all going tomorrow on Harinam Sankirtan. Maybe you're going to the bathroom or the kitchen or maybe the garden, or maybe you're going to the living room or the bedroom, somewhere or another, maybe in the attic. Wherever you are, you can go there for Sankirtan. And tomorrow we're going to New Mayapur. And then probably from Friday onwards, because tomorrow we'll be busy driving. Probably from Friday onwards, I'm hoping to take devotees out daily on Sankirtan to every town and village around New Mayapur. Hare Krishna. All glories to all your services. We'll have Kirtan and bid you all a great World Holy Name Festival and a good month of Purusottama. And don't forget Bhakti Maharaj tomorrow, a wonderful servant of Srila Prabhupada who gave his life dedicated his every moment to Srila Prabhupada's service. And of course, Prabhupada's arrival in Boston. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Bolo, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Go Premanande! Haribo! 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 Oh, glorious to all the devotees of the Lord, wherever you are. I can see Russia, India, France, America, Scotland, England, America. So many Americans there. Australia, I can't believe it. Australia, Philippines, New Zealand. Where else are we? Malaysia. So many places are there. Hare Krishna, Australia, everywhere. Ireland, Hare Krishna. Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada. So we'll see you on the street. Okay, we'll let you know in the morning where we're going. And we hope to meet you there. Okay? Hare Krishna. Yeah. Yeah, Haribol. Huh? Who's that? Who's that? Who's that smiler? Hey, Haribol. Jai ho! Haribol. Hare Krishna. Haribol. Everybody, Hare Krishna. See you soon. Hare Krishna. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Haribo.
Haribol,
Hare
Haribol.
Krishna.
Gauranga. Let's change
Hari.